India hosted the AI Impact Summit last week. Many top world leaders and tech titans marked their presence in this global event in New Delhi. And among them was Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva, the president of Brazil. Lula was on a state visit and was accompanied by a heavy delegation of ministers and business leaders. On the sidelines of the summit, Lula held wide-ranging talks with Prime Minister Narendra Modi. What stood out was a major announcement. India and Brazil sealed a deal on critical minerals and rare earths at a time when global supply chains are under strain. Let's connect the dots. The agreement was signed in the presence of both leaders. It focuses on expanding cooperation in mining, steel, and critical minerals. These are the sectors that are becoming central to the global economic and strategic landscape. This comes at a time when countries across the world are scrambling to secure access to raw materials that power modern industry. From infrastructure and construction to electric vehicles, renewable energy, and advanced electronics. Brazil is among the world's leading producers of iron ore and holds vast reserves of minerals essential for steel making, including manganese, nickel, and niobium. It also has the world's second largest reserves of rare earth minerals and critical minerals. China holds the world's largest reserves of rare earth minerals. These resources are used in smartphones, solar panels, electric vehicles, jet engines, and even guided missiles. For India, the timing of this deal is crucial. India currently has a steel-making capacity of 218 million metric tons. With rapid infrastructure expansion, urbanization, and industrial growth, domestic demand for steel is rising steadily. Indian companies are expanding capacity to keep pace with this demand. To sustain that growth, India needs reliable access to high-quality raw materials. The new Memorandum of Understanding establishes a framework for cooperation in exploration, mining, and processing of critical minerals. It also talks about reciprocal investments, data-driven exploration, and the use of advanced technologies, including artificial intelligence, in mineral discovery and beneficiation. Prime Minister Modi underlined the importance of this step.
क्रिटिकल मिनरल्स और रेयर अर्थ में जो समझौता हुआ है वो रेजिलिएंट सप्लाई चेन्स के निर्माण में एक बहुत बड़ा कदम है। डिफेंस के क्षेत्र में भी हमारा सहयोग निरंतर बढ़ रहा है। ये एक दूसरे के प्रति भरोसे और रणनीतिक तालमेल का बेहतरीन उदाहरण है। हम इस विन विन पार्टनरशिप को आगे भी और मजबूत करते रहेंगे।
China currently dominates the global mining and processing supply chains for rare earths and critical minerals. In recent months, export controls and geopolitical tensions have exposed the risks of overdependence on a single supplier. For India, diversifying sources of supply is not just an economic priority, it is a strategic necessity. India's growing cooperation with Brazil follows similar engagements with the United States, France, and the European Union. But partnerships within the Global South are equally important. They help countries secure on-ground access to resources while also shaping new rules of global trade. The deal also benefits Brazil in significant ways. Brazil has at least 26% of the world's reserves of critical minerals, but only around 30% of its reserves have been fully explored. The country wants to move beyond being just a supplier of raw materials. It aims to attract investments in processing, technology, and value addition within its own country. By partnering with India, one of the fastest growing large economies and a major industrial market, Brazil gains a stable, long-term partner for investment, technology collaboration, and market access. Lula made it clear that trade between the two countries is already growing rapidly.
Em 2025,
In 2025, the bilateral flow exceeded $15 billion for the first time in history, an increase of 25% compared to 2024. We are advancing so fast that we should revisit our goal to reach $30 billion in trade by 2030.
So Lula has suggested a more ambitious target of $30 billion by 2030. Prime Minister Modi emphasized the depth of the relationship.
ब्राजील लैटिन अमेरिका में भारत का सबसे बड़ा ट्रेड पार्टनर है। हम आने वाले 5 वर्षों में द्विपक्षीय व्यापार को $20 बिलियन के भी आगे ले जाने के लिए प्रतिबद्ध है। हमारा व्यापार केवल आंकड़ा नहीं, विश्वास का प्रतिबिंब है।
According to trade data, Indian exports to Brazil crossed over $7 billion recently, with refined petroleum among the main exports. Brazilian exports to India, valued at over $5 billion, include raw sugar, crude oil, vegetable oils, cotton, and iron ore. India is now the 10th largest market for Brazilian exports. The two countries have been strategic partners since 2006. Their cooperation spans defense, energy, agriculture, healthcare, pharmaceuticals, digital infrastructure, and technology. This visit saw 9 other agreements signed as well, covering digital cooperation, health, and entrepreneurship. Technology emerged as a major pillar of future collaboration.
टेक्नोलॉजी और इनोवेशन के क्षेत्र में हमारा सहयोग दोनों देशों के साथ साथ पूरे ग्लोबल साउथ के लिए महत्व रखता है। मुझे खुशी है कि हम ब्राजील में डिजिटल पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर के लिए सेंटर ऑफ एक्सीलेंस बनाने पर काम कर रहे हैं। आर्टिफिशियल इंटेलिजेंस, सुपर कंप्यूटर, सेमीकंडक्टर्स और ब्लॉकचेन जैसे क्षेत्रों में अपने सहयोग को भी हम प्राथमिकता दे रहे हैं।
Lula highlighted the technological partnership too.
meu caro amigo Modi,
Despite the difference in population size, many of our problems are similar, and our scientific and technological expertise is comparable. And if we work together, we will strengthen the bilateral Brazil-India relationship, we will strengthen our relationship with Mercosur, and we will strengthen the Global South, so that we never again enter into a cold war between two powers.
nossos problemas são similares.
Beyond minerals and technology, there is also a larger trade architecture being discussed. And that is the India-Mercosur Trade Agreement. Mercosur is short for Southern Common Market. It is a trade bloc in Latin America comprising Brazil, Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. India signed a preferential trade agreement or a PTA with Mercosur. This was in 2009. However, the current pact covers only around 450 products and has limited scope. Both sides are now looking to expand this into a broader and more comprehensive agreement. India's Commerce and Industry Minister Piyush Goyal underlined this effort.
The Mercosur region is particularly important for us, and we are working to expand our India-Mercosur preferential trade agreement to improve market access, to grow investments on both sides, to have technology partnerships, to engage in sports, education, culture, etc.
Expanding this agreement would lower trade barriers, improve market access, and encourage investment flows between India and South America. All of this is happening against a shifting global backdrop. In 2025, the United States imposed steep tariffs on both India and Brazil, pushing both countries to look more actively at diversifying their trade partnerships. At the same time, global competition over critical minerals is intensifying as countries race towards clean energy transitions and advanced manufacturing. In this context, the India-Brazil rare earth and critical minerals deal is more than just a commercial agreement. It is part of a broader strategy by two major global South economies to secure strategic autonomy, build resilient supply chains, and deepen South-South cooperation. For India, it ensures steady access to the raw materials needed to build roads, railways, renewable energy projects, and defense systems. For Brazil, it opens doors to investment, technology transfer, and value addition in its vast mineral sector. So to sum it all up, this India-Brazil partnership marks a new chapter in global trade and industrial cooperation.
The events of February 2026. Pakistan's airstrikes on Afghan territory. Following the devastating suicide bombing at a Shiite mosque in Islamabad, have pushed South Asia into a dangerous new phase.
To understand the implications, we need to connect the dots. The fragile nature of both states, the escalatory ladder of conflict, the role of Islamic countries, and the spectre of extremist resurgence.
The trigger. On 6th of February 2026, the Khadija Tul Kubra Mosque in Islamabad was targeted during Friday prayers. A suicide bomber affiliated with the Islamic State Pakistan Province ISPP killed 32 worshippers and injured over 170. The attack was sectarian in nature, aimed at Pakistan's Shiite minority, and it exposed the state's inability to secure even its capital city. For Islamabad, the immediate narrative was clear. Militants were operating from Afghan soil, and retaliation was necessary. On 22nd February, Pakistan launched airstrikes in Nangarhar and Paktika provinces of Afghanistan, claiming to target camps of the Pakistani Taliban, TTP, and Islamic State Khorasan province, ISKP. Yet, the strikes killed civilians, including women and children, and hit a madrasa. This escalatory step, cross-border strikes without coordination, marks a dangerous precedent. It signals Pakistan's willingness to externalize its internal security crisis, but at the cost of Afghan sovereignty. Both Afghanistan and Pakistan exhibit characteristics of failed states, though in different ways. In Afghanistan, since the Taliban takeover in 2021, governance has collapsed into factionalism.
Institutions are weak, the economy is in free fall, and the Taliban struggle to control ISKP insurgency. The state lacks legitimacy, internationally and domestically, leaving vast ungoverned spaces for militants.
Compared to last year, prices have increased a lot. A bottle of cooking oil is around 2,300 Afghanis, and the small one costs 600 Afghanis, while a sack of rice costs about 4,000 Afghanis. We cannot afford to buy rice. It has been a long time since we last bought any. Prices are very high, and we, the poor, have nothing. Nothing is within our means.
While Pakistan retains formal institutions, it faces chronic instability, sectarian violence, economic crises. The inability to control militant groups like TTP and ISKP undermine its sovereignty.
The Islamabad mosque attack was a stark reminder that the state cannot guarantee basic security.
At first there was gunfire, 5-6 fires. Then there was silence. After 15-20 seconds there was an explosion. Chaos took place after the blast. People were running here and there. I did not feel I was hit because my back became numb. I came to know later that my back was hit as I came out.
इस तरह का मुझे बैर पता चला है कि बैर मुझे भी कुछ लोग लगे हैं
कि ये जो इमाम बारगाह है यहाँ नमाज जुम्मा के टाइम
This Imam Barga is very crowded during Friday prayers. So, in my opinion, the administration and security personnel should have ensured security here. The lack of security led to this tragic incident, which should never have happened anywhere.
ये मैं इसकी पुरजोर मजम्मत करता हूँ।
Together, these failures create a vicious cycle. Pakistan blames Afghanistan for harboring militants, while Afghanistan accuses Pakistan of violating sovereignty. Neither state has the capacity to stabilize itself, let alone the region. Then there is the escalatory ladder. Terrorists strike inside Pakistan, often with bases in Afghanistan. Pakistan retaliates with airstrikes, hitting both militants and civilians. The Afghan Taliban vows retaliation potentially through proxy attacks or border clashes.
Militancy could spread into Iran, Central Asia, and into India's bordering regions, destabilizing South Asia. Each rung of this ladder increases the risk of open conflict, and the absence of strong state institutions makes de-escalation difficult. The Islamic world faces a dilemma.
On one hand, countries like Iran, Saudi Arabia, and Turkey condemn sectarian violence and instability.
On the other, the vacuum in Afghanistan and Pakistan risks creating fertile ground for extremist resurgence. Islamic State Khorasan Province ISKP is already emboldened by the Islamabad mosque attack. It thrives on sectarian divisions. Civilian casualties from Pakistan's strikes may fuel recruitment.
The Afghan Taliban, while nominally in power, face internal fractures. Hardline factions may escalate anti-Pakistan rhetoric, while moderates struggle to maintain control.
The narrative of a religion under attack could resonate across the region, drawing foreign fighters back into Afghanistan and Pakistan, reminiscent of the 1990s and early 2000s. Islamic countries, particularly Iran and Saudi Arabia, fear that sectarian violence could spill into their own territories. Iran, with its Shiite majority, is especially sensitive to attacks on Shiite communities in Pakistan. Saudi Arabia, meanwhile, worries about extremist narratives undermining its own legitimacy. The crisis reverberates across South Asia and beyond.
China seeks stability for its Belt and Road projects. Instability threatens the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, and risks militant spillover into Xinjiang. Russia is concerned about extremist infiltration into Central Asia. Moscow has offered mediation but lacks deep leverage.
India watches Pakistan's instability because of the continued risks of militant spillover into Kashmir.
The United States maintains limited involvement post-2021 withdrawal, but fears Afghanistan becoming a safe haven for global terrorism again.
But that was a very strong attack, would you say? It was a very strong attack. That wasn't like Jimmy Carter. That wasn't like Sleepy Joe Biden in Afghanistan, where he had no idea, had no clue what he was doing. Take the equipment. You know, I was getting out of Afghanistan. We were going to get out with dignity, strength. They feared us, but we shouldn't have been there, frankly.
Who can stabilize the situation? That's a complex question. The Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, provides a framework, but internal rivalries limit its effectiveness.
China and Russia are best positioned to mediate given their ties to both Pakistan and the Taliban. The US remains a background player, while Islamic countries may push for sectarian de-escalation, yet without genuine cooperation, mediation risks being symbolic rather than substantive. The Islamabad mosque attack, Pakistan's retaliatory strikes, and Afghanistan's failed governance are not isolated events.
They are interconnected symptoms of a deeper malaise. The collapse of state authority in both countries, the persistence of militant networks, and the inability of regional powers to enforce stability. the escalatory ladder is already in motion, and unless checked, it risks dragging South Asia into prolonged instability.
Afghanistan and Pakistan present a dual failed state scenario. One collapsed under Taliban rule, the other hollowed out by militancy and sectarianism and a deep state. The February 2026 crisis highlights how fragile the region is and how quickly violence can escalate.
For Islamic countries, the fear is clear. The resurgence of extremist groups like ISKP and Taliban hardliners could destabilize the wider Muslim world. For greater powers, the concern is equally stark. Instability in South Asia threatens global security, trade, and counterterrorism. The path forward requires recognition of the failed state dynamics at play. Without rebuilding institutions and addressing sectarian divides, any peace will be temporary. The region stands at a crossroads. Either step back from the escalatory ladder or risk plunging into a new era of militancy and conflict. That's all in this edition of Connecting the Dots. We'll see you again next week with more raging issues. Until then, it's goodbye from all of us in the Delhi newsroom. This is Mark Lynn signing off. Take care and stay safe. Namaskar.